Okay, so we're going to be working with constant of proportionality, which is the same thing as slope, okay? So relationships between two quantities in which the ratio of one quantity to the other is constant. It's called a proportional relationship. And we're going to be talking about ways to see those from tables, graphs, and equations. Okay, so you're going to see it in the form y equals kx, where k, whatever's in front of this x value, is your constant of proportionality. Like, so if I had y equals 3x, 3 would be your k value, your slope, or the constant of proportionality. Okay? So k is going to be, if I solve for k, it's going to be the same thing as y divided by x, right? If I were to solve this equation, y equals kx, if I wanted to solve for k, I would divide both sides by x. So k equals y divided by x. Okay? Now we're going to look at these examples, these equations, and we're going to figure out what our constant of proportionality is, our k value. So if we have y equals 5x, what is our constant of proportionality or our slope? 5. How about in y equals 1/2 x? 1/2. Y equals a negative 2x. Negative 2. And y equals a negative x. Negative 1. Because remember, if we have just a variable, there's a 1 in front of it. Since it's a negative variable, it's a negative 1. So if we just had y equals x, what is our constant proportionality? 1, right? There's a 1 in front of it. Okay, so now we're going to look at it 3 different ways. So we have a table. Mason earns $12 an hour at his part-time job. Show that the relationship between the amount he earned and the number of hours worked is a proportional relationship. Okay? So if 1 hour, how much would he make working 1 hour? 12. How about 2 hours? 3, 36, and 4. 48. Okay? So it's constant. The amount of money he makes is how much per hour? 12.
He makes 24 cookies an hour.
So our constant of proportionality is 12, right? Our k value equals 12.
Y equals 12x.
Y equals 12x. Good. So when we write our equations, we're going to have y equals kx. And that's up in the top in your notes, right? K was 12, so we just write y equals kx. So we should be able to take a table and write an equation. So we knew our k here, but you could also see it in the table. We took 1 times 12, 2 times 12, 3 times 12, 4 times 12. So I could look at this table and I could put in any, if I put 4 in for x, what did my y value become? 48. This number of hours is your x. The amount earned is your y. Okay, do you see how it's all related?
Yeah.
Okay, we have Martin's cleaning spray. 1 cup of vinegar for how many cups of water? 5. So what is our constant of proportionality? 5, right? And then what would our equation be? Y equals 5x. Okay? So you need to be able to see it from tables or graphs. So let's go ahead and do our guided practice on page 74. Okay, question 1 says vocabulary. A proportional relationship is a relationship between two quantities in which the ratio of one quantity to the other is or is not constant. Is. They have to be constant. The same change. Like the $12 an hour or the 5 cups per 1 cup. It's a constant. Yes. When writing an equation of a proportional relationship in the form y equals kx, what does k represent? The constant of proportionality. You know it also as slope.
Can we just call it slope then?
You have to understand it as both. Proportionality. It's a constant rate. That's what you need to understand about slope too. It's constant. It's the same. That's why it makes a line. Okay? We're going to write an equation that describes the proportional relationship between the number of days and the number of weeks in a given length of time. So if we fill out our table, 2 weeks is how many days?
14.
4 is?
28.
56 days is how many weeks? 8. 10 weeks is 70. Good. So we're going to let X represent the time in weeks. This is going to be our X value. Okay, and this will be our Y value, right? So time in weeks. What does Y represent then?
Time and days.
Time in days. Okay? So our equation, we're going to use Y equals KX. But from our table, what is our K value? 7, right? So what is our equation going to look like?
Y equals 7.
Perfect. Y equals 7x. The next one says each table or graph represents a proportional relationship. Write an equation that describes the relationship. So if we look at this table, the relationship between the number of oxygen atoms and hydrogen atoms in water is shown. H2O, right? Yep. So if I have 2 oxygen, I have 4 hydrogen. If I have 5 oxygen, how many hydrogen do I have? 10. Okay, if I have 34,
17.
you'd have to divide by 2 to get 17. If I have 120, I would have.
40.
So how do I get, what is my constant proportionality?
Y equals 2x.
Right. Our constant, we're taking it times 2, right? So Y equals 2x. You're going to be looking for that constant in equations, tables, and graphs, and you have to be able to write an equation from any of them, okay? So we have a map in Iowa. We have distance in inches, which would be our X value, right? This is X here. And then actual distance is Y.
30x.
So if I have 130, my K value is,
30.
remember, it's Y over X,
Y equals
which is 30 over 1 or 30. Remember from our notes, we can find our Y value by putting Y over X, okay? So Y equals
30x.
30x.
Way to go, team. Way to go. Good job today.
So if you know the equation of a proportional relationship, how do you draw a graph of that equation?
By using.
Put your x and then you.
So if I know Y equals 2x, how can I make a graph of that? What am I going to do first?
Go over to 2 on the x-axis.
Well, first you gotta make the graph. Yeah, it's asking how do you make the graph.
You're going to use the equation to do what?
Go over to 2 on the x-axis, or go on the x-axis, then go to the y.
So you could go over 1 up 2, over 1 up 2. You could use the equation to graph using slope. Oops. Or you can use it to make a table. I could do input, output. Remember when we did this? X, Y? When X is 0, what's Y?
0.
0. Okay. When X is 1, what's Y?
2.
When X is 2, what's Y? 4. Okay. So you could use the equation to graph using slope or make a table. And then you would just graph it. Then graph.